Ocean Hills at its best is when we are in it together.
It's really exciting to be here. This group is just, it's really my joy. I'll tell you just a little bit about who I am for those of you that I don't know, and then I want to say a few things about who I think you are before we talk about our topic, which I'm excited. So I am really thankful, and I'm honored to just spend the morning with you, because I know what your life is like, and so it's really great to just share a little moment. I am mom of 3 boys. So I have Tyler, Reed, and Braden, who are 19, 17, and 14. So I'm kind of in that window. I've got junior high, high school, and college going on right now. Scott and I have been married for 23 years, and like Renee said, we've had this life of Young Life Ministry, which is outreach to high school, junior high kids, but it involves all sorts of adult volunteers, and it's really been a lifestyle for us. Our home is full of different groups meeting. Our garage is converted. We have kids in there a lot. It's really been a joy. Just a year and a half, 2 ago, Scott took a new job, so he is a commuter now to Oaks Christian School down in Westlake, and he oversees spiritual life and kind of development down there, and he's enjoying that. And I began at that point, and I became a part-time, started working part-time with Young Life officially, even though I've worked with him for years. And so now I train and encourage leaders and staff to just be healthy mostly at what they do while they do it, because for many of you, you're giving a lot, and so I focus on helping people stay healthy while they're doing it. So that's just a little bit who I am, and I'm going to share a few more things as I share. But as far as who you are to me, I really feel like speaking to a group of women is really like speaking, and moms at that, is like speaking to my heroes, really. I mean, I really feel like this is kind of a VIP kind of setting, even though it's not that glamorous, right, or that sexy sometimes. But it is actually really, I don't know of a people group really on the planet, if we just narrowed it down to moms, that know about self-sacrifice and putting your needs aside and seeing the needs, reading the vibe of a room, doing whatever it takes to kind of create some atmospheres for other people. It's really amazing. I do feel heroic, like you may not know or feel like that, but it's really quite a role that you're in. It's a huge role. And your heart and desire to love really well, and to do whatever it takes to love these little ones really, really well. I don't think there's another people group, again, that is focusing that hard on loving really well. And that makes me feel really proud and like honored to be with you. And I also feel like because our hopes are so high for that of ourselves, that we're also missing the mark more than anyone else probably, right? So we're probably the most vulnerable group to feeling a little disappointed that we can't do it right. And so in my experience of speaking to different people, I feel like moms are the easiest ones to hit a guilt nerve and to go to a guilty place, because we know how much we want to do all of this really well, and we also know we're faced with our humanness moment by moment, right? Impatient, whatever by whatever. And so there's a lot of opportunity for guilt-riddenness with this group. And I say that to some of my other friends that speak and do stuff. It's like, yeah, you really want to be careful with the mom group, because the mom group in their mind will go kind of to where they're missing or where they're falling short really quickly in their minds, more than I think most other groups, because our goals and our heart and our hope is so high for really great love, right, to deliver with what the Lord's given us. So I just, I feel like the Lord particularly wants to encourage you, particularly for those reasons, that I feel like what we're going to talk about this morning is particularly to encourage you. So let me encourage you this morning with some things the Lord's given me just for you. So let me pray real quick one more time. Lord, we're really thankful to have a moment and a pause right now. And I really just pray for each one here, myself included, Lord, that we could receive the goodness of your presence, that it would ring down in our heart, that it would meet us where we're tired, where we're hopeful, where we're wondering where we stand with all of these hopes and dreams for great love and great presence in our role as moms. But just meet us here this morning. Help us to be open to what you have. In Jesus' name, amen. So I loved hearing some of the dialogue. I could hear a little bit about what you guys know about presence in people and in friendships. And a friend of ours recently said, and was leading out saying, that there is no better compliment than someone saying they want to be with you. So just think about that. There really is no better compliment than someone saying they want to be with you and showing that with their actions. I mean, you can't really have any more way of showing that. And it really is true. We have a deep response when someone's attentive to us, you know, starts noticing familiar things about us, and they're kind of tracking with us a little bit more than the usual. And, you know, we have all sorts of acquaintances. We know grocery store people, we know neighbors, we know distant family, we know even extended family in town, and then we kind of get into people maybe that you've lived with, you know, the college roommates. Some of you might have referred to them. You've shared years, you've grown, you've changed. And you kind of get into your own little circle where you wake up and you have bad breath together, and then you've got, you know, your spouse and your kids, and this idea of presence in that is a really big one. It's something I'm excited to kind of talk about. I feel like it can be a game changer for us. When someone all of a sudden starts saying, I want to spend time with you, there's no way that's not going to have impact on us, right? And for me, I remember like with Scott, one of the first times, this was, I tell a story sometimes because you might have this story maybe in your marriages when you first started, but we were dating, it was at Westmont, and I grew up with 3 girls. I was the youngest of 3 girls, and my dad was really into sports. I was kind of his daughter that did sports, and so he was a sportscaster, and Scott always says I had more sports equipment than he did when we started dating, and you know that was a plus on him. But anyways, I played softball growing up, and I grew up pitching out in front of our you know, kitchen window while my mom was doing the last one. My dad would come home and we'd go out and we'd throw the ball like for at least a half an hour, and then I became a pitcher. You know, we'd mark it off and I'd pitch, and then he was my coach. And this is like up into, you know, my 12s and 14s, and I was the relief pitcher, which is no fun if you know anything about pitching. I was always like, you know, bases loaded, no outs, last inning, Jamie, and I'd be like, no, you know. But I would pitch, and a few times, I remember just choking. You know, I'd be solid, but the first couple pitches, I just wouldn't know what would come. And a few times, has anybody been to Little League fields? And you see the setting, or if you've seen them on TV, there's usually the snack bar right behind the catcher. And a few times I warmed up and I was so nervous and like tears that I pitched the ball up over the snack bar. And I just remember like wanting to cry. And that happened, I remember, on 2 different occasions. So, okay, jump forward to college, and I'm playing with Scott, and I played in high school. You know, I was beyond those years, but that still was kind of like a, ooh. So I told him that we're pitching. He said, well, so I started pitching, which was quite a vulnerable thing to do because still I didn't know if I would like throw it up and over because this is a new boyfriend, you know. So I'm pitching, and then we get going. I tell him about these and how embarrassing, and I still feel like open. And then I remember we were playing, and all of a sudden it was on Reynolds Lawn, and up came some friends. Like all of a sudden it was like social, and all of a sudden I felt like I was 12 on the mountain, you know. And so I stalled, and he kind of was, you know, down catching, and kind of went, oh, and then we kind of just went real gentle. But something about him noticing me right in that minute, have you ever had that moment where somebody makes an accommodation and an adjustment, and he felt present, and he was tracking with something kind of quirky about me, but it was present, and it was a game changer for me. Actually, how I saw him, I was like, wow, okay, something about him didn't call me out or make me uncomfortable or something. And, you know, we've had several things like that since, and you guys have that it means something when someone chooses some presence towards you. So in families, you know, we all kind of enjoy a certain level of inside jokes, quirkiness, you know, stuff like that, like, or maybe on trips or things like that. And I think what happens, you know, you kind of lend some security when you kind of start sharing some of those moments. Like in our family, I could tell every member has something, many quirky things. You know, Tyler, every time after he eats, he's cold. So we all like, you better go get a jacket on, even before he says it, because he eats, he's cold, you know. Or Reed, when he watches a movie, he never watches just like this. He's always like, sometimes he's even like his feet are up and he's down like this. Like he's just like a Labrador, we call him. He's always, but we always laugh at that. I always fall asleep in movies, and then I wake up and I make people tell me what the ending is, and they're like starting to laugh at me. I'm like, sting it. And I start guessing the end, and they're like, stop guessing, we'll just tell you. Scott forgets his age. You know, he's often saying that he's this, and they're like, no, you're not. You're 2 years older than that. You know, we're kind of, but we have these, you know, that kind of thing where you have kind of quirks and jokes and experiences. And I think, you know, so presence meets us deeply on a lot of layers, and it's security. It kind of offers, it lends, it's not just for the quality of the moment and that was a great conversation. There's actually security building in that moment. And familiarity, it's joy, it's comfort. when you think of those moments. So it's why I feel like to connect it at this time of year in particular, it's why God has gone to such extravagant lengths to be present with us. And this is a great time of year to really think about his presence to you heroes, is to think about what his presence means to you. Our hearts are hungering for his presence, and it's a message of us hearing from him that you're worth it, that I want to be with you. And in this room, we probably have varying levels of what we've experienced of God's presence. We may have had really rich, deep seasons. We may have had long deserts. We may just be coming into knowing what presence feels like from God. That's okay. But it is a really great season to view the story that you may be in of Christmas with that in mind, that God has come to be present, because a presence for you is a game changer from him. So there's verses that we don't really, you can look at them a little bit later, but the verses that I quickly kind of put together about God's presence that you might want to take, and it could just be a starting place, it's really basic. But it's really, we know the story of God in the Old Testament. Presence looked like big, enormous structures or clouds or temples, right? And so the people related with God in big, large, massive ways. There's a lot of honoring and yielding, but it was all kind of in big amounts. And then we get the story where Jesus comes, right? And that's what we're celebrating now. So he comes to us and he moves in closer. In John 1:14, it says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us." Another version says he moved into our neighborhood. He wanted to be closer. So here comes Jesus. Here comes God to us. His name is Emmanuel, which means God with us. It was always called that from the Old Testament forward. So God is coming to us. Then we know as we walk with him, as we engage in belief with him, and as Jesus left the earth, that he left his Holy Spirit. So now it's from big, enormous God out in the wild to God comes to us and is in front of us in our neighborhood, to God moves in us. And now he's as close can get. You couldn't get closer than how close he's determined and extravagantly extending himself to be with us. I think it just rings so much. And then we have ongoing presence to enjoy. There's verses in Psalms there, but in your presence is fullness of joy. My soul longs for you, Lord, to be with you as the deer pants for the water. I always felt like, gosh, I wish, that sounds really good, but I don't know if I'm really panting for the Lord. But I heard one person say one time that if you wish that you could be that deer, there is something going on in your heart, that you're longing to long, and that's okay too. We know something's going on, that we long to be with him, to know him. And the last verse is on the back, and it's just from Isaiah, and it just says, and you guys know this, "For to us a child is born, a son is given, and all of his names, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." I just wanted to focus on Prince of Peace, because I think a lot of you, I don't know what your stories or what your words described, but presence to me often feels like peace. It's a boost, it's a lending of I'm peace. Because if a person is choosing to be present, they've pretty much set aside all other things to just kind of be available to you. It's a lot more peaceful than a multitasker coming at you and trying to, have an ADD conversation. There's something pulled back, everything's pulled back, and there's presence. And so I feel like, Prince of Peace, it could almost be Prince of Presence. That God, we think of Prince of Peace as like there's no fighting, conflict, the world's at peace. That's a kind of peace, but there's also just a peace to share with one another in presence that I feel like God's kind of given us. And I'd call it like the golden gift of God, the presence. So he's done a lot for us, but the thing we yearn for and that he's most frequently available and offering to us is just his presence. And I think with moms, we know this, it can be pretty isolating being a mom. You don't often feel an abundance of presence of other people with you in your role and the thing that you're called to. It can almost feel the opposite of that. I feel like sometimes this is the group, heroic as though you may be, that will have like sometimes the vacant stares. I was grocery shopping yesterday, and sweet mom, sweet. And I just glanced because I'm noticing moms more in these previous couple days I'm getting ready to come share with you. I'm like, vacant stare. There it is, I'm just trying to get the turkey and the cheese, and I got to get home. It's just like vacant, tired, kind of just plowing, head down, right? The other night too, it was like 10:30, and I had the mountain of laundry on my bed, everybody else had still done their thing, so this is not a slam against everybody else, but they were kind of unwinding, watching a little show, and I was in there in my room folding laundry, you know, because I wanted the laundry done because I didn't want to wake up to it the next morning, you know. But there's just a lot of solitary moments in our role where we're kind of thinking, is anybody tracking or noticing? No, actually, no. Nobody is tracking or noticing anything, and I'm just doing it, you know. So it can be really... it can be hard, but and this is why God's presence is especially good news for us. It's especially good news. We don't want to like take it, just gloss over it. Oh yeah, he's present. He came to it. It's really good news because we tend to get isolated, and we need his witness. We need that. We need to know that we're not alone. So we know the physical level of emptying ourselves too. Physically, we have, you know, birthed or gone through great measures to adopt, or, you know, whatever we have physically, we've all in. We are all in this role. And we know uniquely what presence means to fill us, more than probably other people groups might even know as well. No knock against anyone, just again, that there's something big going on with God's presence in us. It's unique. It's a little different, I think, than others may experience it. He says through it, we're worth it. He sees you. He wants to be with us. Some friends... Did I already say this, that about that peace, Prince of Peace, that we got in the habit some years back ago of just if we'd talk with each other, we'd get in the habit of saying, how's your peace level? Like, how's your peace level? Because to us, the more we talked, the more that had to do with, it wasn't really about our circumstances. We all had crazy stuff going on. We had crazy, you know, this one's throwing up, you know, parents are coming tomorrow, he's got to mean he's traveling. I mean, none of that changed. But our peace level had to do with our experience of the Prince of Presence being with us. And so we still sometimes like, how's your peace level? You know, because that's really the heart of what we kind of need to survive and be in and through our roles right now. So there's two reasons it seems like the Lord has given me kind of this to share today. One is to kind of heighten our appetite for presence. I give you total permission to be hungry for presence of God. I feel like he meets us there. And the second one is to really to bless you with your gift of presence to others, especially your spouse and your kids, with your presence. So I want to bless and encourage us for a moment now. Just take what the gift of God is, but to really bless you in your presence, your gift to your spouse and your kids. You know, our desire is really to create special moments and memories, traditions, you know, as you have kids, and maybe some of you just have infant stage, some are in mid-years, I'm kind of in the teens, some are grown and gone kids, but still our heart kind of throughout, we still kind of we're the ones that kind of keep the pulse on the container for the family to happen, right? That kind of sets up and allows for some great memories and some beautiful things to happen. And all that while we're shopping, working, you know, doing all that. But that kind of is our heart, kind of moving out towards our families. And we often, you know, in the sleeping, the eating routines and the, you know, all those things, all those really, really mundane that kind of create and allow for that. And our culture, we would say, you know, feeds the image of kind of having the right food, the right kids, the right house, the right tradition, the perfect moment, the beautiful connectedness, you know, it kind of feeds that. That's all the pictures, and that's sometimes what our conversations with each other, sometimes, again, that guilt thing will come in and we'll be like, oh, it sounds like they're doing really great. I can hardly even get dinner on the table. You know, we have that kind of thing kind of going on a lot. And it really kind of, the culture really would point us more to performance. Performance, not performance like on stage, but it's kind of how are we doing at this heart that we have such a huge heart for? Like how are we actually executing it? So our culture would really steer us to look at all those performances and then you kind of decide. You're either doing it or you're not. So the tricky part for us is really not letting all of that be at the expense of our presence. And I don't really feel like we have to necessarily choose one or the other in terms of all those beautiful things that we want to set up for our families. But if we're choosing performance over presence, we're really missing it. And we'll miss it. We'll miss it inside at our peace level. And our spouse and our kids, turns out, will miss it. Because we're not really shooting for the beautiful moment around the tree with strangers. We're really actually shooting for this connectedness wherever we're at. And if it's around the tree, we'll remember the tree. If it's around this table, believe me, like, you know, I've got boys, but I have some of the craziest memories that have nothing to do with the ideal thought of what I was planning to deliver. It was the bomb that happened in spite of me that they took over and ran wild with, but we all started laughing at it. So it's about presence over performance. But the performance, or the container that we build, can really be a beautiful complement, but never ahead of the presence. Is that making sense? So I want to talk a little bit more about this. The good news, because this right now could be the guilt moment for you. This could be like the, uh-oh, I'm just working off of my to-do list. I'm just trying to get to December 25th. Or that, you know, I'm already kind of checking off. And so let's just kind of throw that out there, that we're all there. We could kind of hear that and go, uh-oh, I have my to-do list. I don't know what to, I have to get those things done in order to be a peaceful person, you know. And so the good news about presence is that your heart is already, like we started out, your heart is already in the top % on the planet of somebody that wants to love really well, wants to love your kids, wants to love your spouse really well. I'm convinced of that moms have this beautiful thing that just steps right into kind of the heart of love. So you're already there. And God's given you his presence. He's here. He's done all those measures. And presence, turns out, presence lives in you. That's what so if God lives in you, if some of you are still just kind of grappling with what does that look like. And I would just say right now, if you're a person that has been hearing about that, but these ideas about inviting God in, or letting him come close, or change your shape, or transform you, this is a really good reason for moms to kind of let go of the things that are keeping you from him. Because what God does is he comes in and he moves in and he becomes presence in you. And this is great because this is already your heart. You want to love well, and it turns out presence and love fit together. So be blessed, be encouraged. What you already want to do is already possible for you because of him. And is that for me? No. Oh. I'm like, oh, they're giving me the hook. So if you feel like this is kind of a lofty idea, you know, for a 1-year-old or a 10-month-old, like what does presence mean for, you know, this sounds kind of kooky, or, you know, just the 2s and the 3s, just to take courage that God has presence for you and through you for your kids, that, and maybe that could be a relief to you. I know when I was in younger years, and still now, sometimes I really put a lot of effort into what do I need to do? What does the family need? What do they need from me? What do I do? You know, I could just kind of get my list out. And then it's really been a relief for me to remember and to kind of switch a gear and go, you know what? If I did all this and I wasn't present, I would be missing it. And they would be missing out. And so it's released me to say, you know what? Actually, presence is something I can do. I don't have to go out and shop for that. I don't have to have a clean house for that. I don't have to have company for that. I don't have to get my kids to school on time, which was a really hard thing for me. I don't have to do that. I can be present actually while I'm driving them late to school. Like, you know, it's not about my performance. It's something, it's like a trump card. I don't know if you play pinochle, but the trump card is like, trumps it all. It's like presence is kind of this other layer that is a gift to us that we can do. And we can do it imperfectly. We don't have to do it constantly, but it's kind of always there, and it's what we get to give. So be encouraged. It's always been a big relief to me to accept that from God and give that. So let's just talk a little practically as we kind of wrap it up, and then I'll give you guys some chance to kick it around. I think with spouses, like some of you have such young kids that really family life hasn't really blossomed. You got kind of the blob stage, you know, going on or whatever, so, you know, how much are you going to... But so I think with your spouse, you know, it's really important what you're building right now with your spouse. I mean, it always is. Scott and I just did a marriage retreat at the beginning of November and talked a lot about friendship in marriage. So I know that we're busy and tired in that capacity a lot of times, but I would even just say a small goal would be to take 10 or 15 minutes, maybe each evening or maybe every other evening if you're too pooped or cut your losses quickly and move on. Don't like live in what you weren't able to do, but kind of 10 to 15 minutes where you stop whatever you're doing and just turn to him and ask about their day and stay with the conversation, even if it's absolutely boring to you, you know. But tell me about your day. What was your highlight? But I would just encourage you to practice 10 minutes, even 5 minutes. Maybe start with 5 minutes of just presence, even if it's not really your rhythm right now or it's not really returned. It's still a game changer in a relationship and in a family. So I'd practice that with your spouse. Take a few minutes, look at them, Ask them about their days. And don't put off, especially in this season, don't put off the coffee date or don't put off the morning moment because you've got 12 million things to do and you're just trying to get through it. Like, I would just say, don't let go of presence, whatever you can do on your own part to be present to your spouse. With kids, you know, little ones, and I see so many of you guys doing this. I love it. You get on the floor with them, gaze at them, look at them, talk to them. I mean, you guys are masters of these experiences, but don't stop doing that because, again, that is as important as whatever gift you're shopping for them for. It's more important, right? It's actually, they're going to remember, because what you're doing is you're building something on a long level scale by this presence, by elevating it and making it more important. So get on the floor, gaze at them, laugh with them. Pause what you're doing with middle-aged kids or all age. Look at them, ask questions that tell them that you notice them. What's your life like? What are you enjoying? What's really hard for you? Just be a listener, but just be available. Some of you said that about what you can tell about people that are present to you. Just turn that just in small little bite sizes. And you might have a kid that can only answer one question because that's their age and development. That's fine. Or maybe you're going to just go play catch like my dad did with me. You know, it's not always the conversational that we women want. Maybe it'll be a little shared moment or experience. Overall, I think I really want to encourage you to really weigh your to-do list, to really double check it, triple check it. Like, is it really all necessary? I start with a big long one and then, you know, as it gets more and more impossible, I start axing away. But I think I want to give you permission to, if presence is being sacrificed, even by me talking about it today, and now you have a little bit, it's on your antenna and your radar for this month. If you really sense, you know, my presence is being sacrificed, well then you probably need to really ask, is that to-do list right now really the most important thing? Sometimes it is. I mean, I totally get the Martha scenario. We are preparing the container for Christmas, so it's not like 100%, like never do your to-do list. I'm not doing anything legalistic here. But I'm giving you permission, if you're running frazzled and it's been maybe days since you've stopped and looked at someone in your family, spouse or a kid, maybe your to-do list is really trumping your presence. And then it's costing you relationship, which would be the worst thing. That is not what our heart desires as moms, right? So then we're kind of going the opposite way. So encouragement there. For us, I'll just give you an example. How's my time?
No, we're good.
Okay. Lisea style Christmas Eve. And this started when I was way overwhelmed and had 3 little boys. But it really was about this. And it started kind of this tradition. And I've gotten a little bit of flack like from my mom and stuff. But she loves, you know, whatever. So really, Lisea Christmas is surfing if it's possible, get in the water. Not that we're avid surfers, but there's a little magical there for my husband, so he'll try and do that. If it doesn't happen, we show up at Christmas Eve service with all of you, Fest Parkers. We take down the tree, you know, with everybody, laugh. We're usually on cleanup duty. And then we drive to Carl's Jr. on Milpas, and we get burgers. We get to order whatever we want. So we get burgers, shakes, French fries. I get the fried zucchini once a year. I get that. I get the fish whale tail. Where I get the fish sandwich because I love that. But we get fast food. And then we go to our house, and we drive there, and we eat our fast food, start the fire. Boys get jammies still, boxers, whatever. And then we all lay in front of the TV, and we watch It's a Wonderful Life. And that's it. And that's it. And we go to sleep. And I am with them the whole time. I'm not disappearing. I'm not putting any food out. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. Sometimes there's like traditions that are, man, your kids will love them. They'll love, like I grew up having chili every Christmas Eve. I wouldn't trade that. I love that chili. But my mom was often in the kitchen. And I don't do that every day through the holiday. There's other things that I say, okay, I'm going to pull out and prepare. But for Christmas Eve, somehow that birthed when I was way overwhelmed. And I decided, you know what? I kind of like being with them. I kind of like just letting go of everything and having a burger. And they love it, and I love it. I've got boys, so I can, you know. And like I said, my mom has been like, really, are you going to do that? Sometimes she's come and spent it with me, she and my dad. I'm like, nope, you're getting a burger. We're doing burgers, you know. Because it's just, now it's like we giggle at each other. It's like, we are having burgers. It's kind of an interesting crowd that's in there on Christmas Eve right after the service, I should say. But anyways, that's just an example of encourage you to really be willing to check your list. If it's just always pulling you out of presence, something may need to give. And feel permission at what you might purchase or what you might buy and be available to by letting go, just because you'll just be. You won't always be the one preparing. So what I'm learning, to think with the end in mind, especially like over the years and what I keep seeing, the lasting impressions. What are you paving a way for with your kids. There are some things like, you know, we had very cute traditions earlier on, but really right now, as I'm kind of nearing the send out, and some of you with adult children will know and see, is that it's really about relational connection with them over a long haul. So traditions will play in and be a complement to that, but relationship won't build on things other than presence. So it's really worth it to just get your antenna and say, how can I help be more present just to them, because relationship will build. And now I'm having conversations of adult nature, like with my oldest, and I think about all the times where we just decided, probably 2 or 3 times a year, Tyler and I still will go garage sale shopping, and we'll just go get coffee. And the conversations that happen during that are just, they're present. I don't have any, usually I have a goal in mind and a direction that I want the conversation to go and some kind of information I'm looking for. Well, it's best when I just let that all go and I just show up, right? You know, kids have a huge antenna for that. All of a sudden they're like, what do you want? What do you want from me? I think I've said it all. I asked my boys, I asked my boys just on Sunday after church, we went to Eureka and had burgers, and we were sitting there because Tyler's getting ready to go back to college. I said, okay guys, I'm talking about presence with moms. I said, I want to hear, what do you think about our presence in our family? Like, you know, are we available, or what does that feel like? And, you know, they had some sweet things. Just, I feel like we really enjoy a road trip. We've never really gone the direction of high entertainment during the road trip because we kind of really try and stay present. So we do name game, dorky games. I'm thinking of a person. Okay, whose turn it? But it's just something that keeps us turned towards each other rather than off in our own worlds. One of them said also, I really like our family meetings. About 4 years ago, we started doing family meetings maybe once a month. But it's just anybody can call us, but usually Scott and I do maybe once a month at the most. But hey, let's have a family meeting. Anybody have any updates like you want to share with us? And you know, we're older, we're conversant people, so I don't have my little blob stage, so just look ahead right now. And if can you share something that maybe we don't know about you, right now that you'd like us to know? It's amazing when they're like the platform, is given. And then usually Scott and I will bring up something, hey, here's something I'd like us to think about. It's just and so one of them just said the other day, I really like our family meetings because I kind of feel like we can say anything and we're heard and you can say anything. It's a very safe place. And then the last thing I'd share is that one of them said, I think presence is important because it keeps us from drifting out and away from each other. Like when we have moments where we're together, it would be easy and this is my kid who is most likely to drift. And he said, I like it because it pulls us together. So just hold that image in mind. The presence of God with us. He's come to kind of hold you together, to be near you, to have you experience the Prince of Presence in you, to hold you together. And it's something like that we get to impart. And as you do, it gives your family and you a sense of being held together, like no performance could. That's what I'm saying. That makes sense. Let me pray for you, and then there's a couple questions you guys could maybe kick around together. Father, thank you so much for your gift of coming, of wanting to be near us, of saying that we're worth it, of noticing us, giving us your attention in a way that just makes us feel secure and stable. Thank you, and I pray for everyone here that this season would be a time of experiencing more of your presence. And Lord, that we'd be encouraged, freed up, released, relieved to know that our presence is our gift we can pass along and have probably the most fruitful effect on our families and our kids and spouses and our marriages. Give us the willingness, the energy, and moments to do that. In Jesus' name, amen.